We can start our meditation with 3 long and deep breaths together to center ourselves in this space right here and right now. Let's return to our breathing as a way to bring our mind back to our body. Breathing in, I am aware of my in-breath. Breathing out, I'm aware of my out-breath. In, out. When you try to focus on your breathing, your mind may wander, and it's okay. Just bring your mind back to your breathing. Breathing in, my in-breath goes deep. Breathing out, my out-breath goes slowly. Deep, slowly. Breathing in, I'm aware of the tension in our body. Breathing out, I release the tension in my body. Aware of the tension, release the tension. Now that we have established a rhythm of breathing and synchronizing with our body, we can go further to explore our feeling. Be aware of a prominent feeling that you have, maybe angry, anxious, upset, curious, whatever feeling that you have. Maybe you can say, I know you are there and I'm here for you. Breathing in, aware of the feeling. Breathing out, be present with the feeling. Now let's just return to our breathing and be aware of it. Breathing in, I'm aware of my in breath. Breathing out, I'm aware of my out breath.
Signlessness. What do you think, Spooty? Is it possible to grasp the Tathagata by means of bodily signs? No, world honored one. When the Tathagata speaks of bodily signs, there are no signs being talked about. The Buddha said to Subhuti, in the place where there is something that can be distinguished by signs, in that place there's deception. If you can see the signless nature of signs, then you can see the Tathagata.
Thank you. Spend a moment to really contemplate this part. All right, so this part of the sutra challenges our perception. It also helps us to expand our perception. Nowadays, we don't have the luxury of seeing the Buddha in his bodily form, but in the past, I remember that there's one sutra that states that there was a monk who was ordained because he loved seeing the Buddhas seeing the Buddha. So because he loved the sign, the form, the Buddha so much, he became a monk. And every day he went to the Buddha's, hut to see the Buddha. And if he missed a day, he would be very upset because he um, couldn't see the Buddha, couldn't see the appearance of the Buddha, right? And that the Buddha said to that monk that you don't have to see me in order to practice. My my teaching is me, so you just need to practice. You don't have to come here every day to see me. So I think in that spirit, in that sense, the Buddha kind of warned us, don't take his form as him, right? And don't take any form as it is. When we look at something, we will have a perception of what that thing is. We come to an agreement with the word that what a thing is, what its function is, how we can use it, um, and so on. For example, when we look at water, uh, we know that it is water because it has, qualities of what water is. In it, in liquid form, it can be used for drinking or swimming or, watering vegetables and so on. So it is a common knowledge, right? But at a fish, it will perceive or see water differently. We know what we know water, we know how to use it, we know a lot of things about water, but there are different forms of water, such as snow, steam, or ice, right? It depends on the temperature where the water is. So no one is crying or suffering when water becomes steam or ice, right? Because we know that if the temperature is so low, water becomes ice. And if the temper is so high, water becomes steam, right? So seeing like that, we are free from attachment to one form of water. And seeing like that, we free water from its form. We don't want to just hold on to its liquid form because it is transformed. Similarly, when the Buddha says that it is not possible to grasp, that the Buddha, by means of bodily signs, he wants to free us from attachment to our looking or our perception of what a Buddha looks like. Furthermore, form is changing all the time. And if we are not contemplating carefully, we'll be stuck in old form and miss the new forms of the things that we hold dearly. Of course, we can look at the Buddha, we can see the Buddha, and we have some kind of mental image of the Buddha, right? But we don't become attached. We don't become attached to that image of what we see. We are free from our own seeing. Because the Buddha says, in a place where there is something that can be distinguished by signs, in that place, there is deception. If you look at an old picture of you when you were like much younger, then compare that picture, with a recent picture of you, you would find that the person in the picture is not the same, but also not different. It's you, right? So there seem to be two different people, the younger version and the recent version. They look different, but they are the same. same person, two different pictures. You know, if people who remember you when you were were in that younger version and hold on to that idea, this is what you're supposed to look like, then they missed the person in front of them because they hold on to the old version of you. So we don't want to miss who we are, who our loved ones are. You know, hold on to someone in the past. By hold on to someone in the past, right? It doesn't mean that you have to give up our memories of that person. Instead, we can free that person from our attachment to the old version of who they were and wholeheartedly embrace the person in front of us, right? So it is the idea that you can never grasp anyone by means of bodily signs. You know, looking and seeing, but not holding on tightly. This one can be applied into our meditation practice as well. For example, when you meditate, you know, you experience some kind of relaxation and calm, and maybe, you know, liberating. Some meditations sometimes very good. You know, it is good to experience such feelings while meditating. But if you hold on to those feelings, you miss the nature of meditation, which is to be curious and to just have mere recognition. And if next time, you know, you don't have those feelings that you had, which were pleasant or liberating, you would be upset, thinking that you are doing it wrong, right? So you welcome whatever feeling arises in your meditation, but you don't hold on to any feeling. When the Tathagata speaks of bodily signs, there are no signs being talked about. When the Buddha speaks of bodily signs, or he speaks of anything regarding to the practice, the path, or the, you know, liberation, he is using conventional language to convey something else. This is the language of Prajna Paramita, which is the language of great wisdom to go beyond this duality. There's a saying in Zen tradition, before my spiritual practice, I see mountain as mountain, river as river. During my practice, I see mountain not as mountain. I see river not as river. But after my practice, I see mountain as mountain and river as river. Confusing, right? So this saying is similar to the sentence when the Buddha speaks of bodily signs. There are no signs being talked about. And we must add, that is why the Buddha speaks of bodily signs. This sounds difficult to understand, but actually it's not. So let explore the saying. Before my spiritual practice, I see mountain as mountain. I see river as river, right? So before that, before I engage the practice, before I didn't know anything, before, you know, before even learning this sutra, I see mountain and I think, oh, this is a mountain. It's beautiful. It's, you know, this is it has certain shape. Our conventional language is used, and everybody agrees that, you know, something is called mountain because it's shaped like that, tall like that, and has such and such qualities, right? No one see a mountain and call it a house. Perhaps birds do, but we don't, right? So we have established our perception about what it means to be called mountain, right? And if someone call mountain something else, we will use all our knowledge to argue with them, or maybe we call them insane, right? If I call this this little bell, can I call it a mountain? Would you agree with me? You wouldn't. You would say, oh, this monk is crazy, right? Because we already established, we agree that this is a bell. This is not a mountain, right? We have this common knowledge, right? So mountain, before my practice, I see mountain as mountain because I don't know better. I just know that, we agree that this is mountain. During my practice, I see mountain not as mountain and river not as river. It means that when we engage in spiritual practice, we see the nature of things, such as impermanence, non-self, and nothing exists independently from other things. So what seems to be called mountain or river are just names and perception for our convenience. What seems to be static is very dynamic and changing all the time. There's, in fact, mountains and rivers are changing all the time. What we perceive now as mountain or rivers are our snapshots of changing phenomena. So we are free from our perceptions of mountains and rivers. It is similar to what we call a self or a person. There's no permanent entity that exists separately from other things. Everything is interconnected. So mountains are made possible by non-mountain elements, and rivers are made possible by non-river elements. So this is the realization during your spiritual practice. The second step. The third one, after I have completed my practice, I see mountain as mountain, and again, river as river. It means that, it's okay to use conventional language to say that mountain are mountain and rivers are rivers. No attachment to perception. If so, just the way how people use language to communicate. Mountain can be mountain and rivers can be rivers conventionally, even though we call things as they appear and are conventionally accepted by people. We have no problem with how they are called. Even someone come to you and say, hey, this is not a mountain, you will smile and walk away, So this, you can use this sentence in any situation in your life. For instance, your partner says something that annoys you. You may reply, what is said is not what is said. That why, it is said. So when you say that, you sound very profound. You confuse them as a tactic to avoid argument. And your partner will be very confused at first. And then you can say, you know, before I practice, I hear what you say as what you mean. But during my practice, I hear what you say as not what you mean. But after I practice, I hear what you say as what you say. And it doesn't affect me anymore. You know, at that moment, your partner will become more confused. Essentially, you know, what is said is just sound wave, right? Maybe they mean it or don't mean it. It doesn't matter. The nature of their voice is sound wave, right? So to protect yourselves from interpreting what is said, you first have to acknowledge that the nature of what is said is sound wave. Then, because, you know, I don't know, you love each other, right? You want to clarify whether they mean it or not. You know, they don't mean it, I'm sure. What is behind why they said is their greed or hatred or delusion. So you may say, I know you don't mean it. It's just delusion or ignorance speaking or anger speaking, you know. After realizing that, you don't become upset or angry with them. You know, this is how you give birth to a new kind of thinking or perspective. And for the mother in here, for all the mother in here, like all kinds of giving birth is so painful and dangerous. So similarly, giving birth to new thought, new pattern, or new perspective is also painful. You have to be able to, you know, allow this this spiritual practice to enter your conversation during those difficult moments, you know. And one important sentence, very important sentence in this entire sutra is, in a place where there is something that can be distinguished by signs, in that place, there is deception. Okay, so it's not like whatever you see, there's deception there, but it has the potential to deceive you. Whatever you see, it has the potential to deceive you. So be aware. Don't be fooled by signs or appearances. You know, we perceive signs and appearances through our eye faculty, right? Signs are combinations of non-science elements. That is how signs are made possible. It is a reminder that a thing is called by a specific name is in itself doesn't have a permanent and independent entity. It is made possible by non-things elements again. So when that thing is broken or transformed, we will not suffer. Use things for our conventional purposes and not hold on to things too tightly. That is liberation right there. Use things and not hold on to things. We have to try from small things to big things, eventually to people. We have to know how to let go, and that is liberation. You know, letting go doesn't always mean that you have to forget or get rid of or abandon things. You know, it can be to accept the ways things are, accept the ways people are, Many people complain to me that, why it is so difficult to let go of their suffering, even though they know that it is not healthy for them to hold on to their suffering. To them, it is as if letting go is just forget or abandon the suffering or negative emotions, right? It's not like that. Being curious and accepting what is going on in your mind is also a way to let go of your suffering, because I'm sure that when you hear the word letting go, it means you would understand that, oh, you had to kind of get rid of it or abandon it or let it go, but maybe we understand it's wrong. Letting go here maybe is a way to accept things as they are, So when you accept things as they are, it is when suffering is there, but it's no longer bothering you anymore. You don't have to kind of detach or resent your suffering to be able to let it go. You just need to be aware, to acknowledge, to accept that it is there. It will be let go by itself. That's, liberation is not that there's no more suffering, okay? Instead, there is no affecting or bothering by the suffering. There are 4 stages of a thing, anything, 4 stages of anything: becoming, sustaining, dissolving, and transforming. So this applies to every existing material thing in the world. Again, becoming, sustaining, dissolving, and transforming. This can be also applied to your thinking as well. Your thinking also goes through these 4 stages. If you observe anything in the world, you can see that these 4 stages are happening all the time, right? So to hold on to something in its current form is misleading. The problem is not whether things change, but the problem is our wanting for things not to change. That's why the Buddha said, wherever there is sign, there is deception. And we have to be aware of that. So now we can also apply this to people. Like things, people change, right? In relationship, you don't ask people to stay the same to love you the same, but you ask that people accept when change occurs. So it is true love. It may be hard to grasp, but it is how we overcome suffering, how we transform our suffering. It is funny that our suffering doesn't occur because of the changing, but it occurs because of our perception that things should stay or remain the same. So a contemplative meditation you can try to ask yourself when you see something or someone changes its form, or the mind, do I have any control over that? How should I react to the change and see the deception in my own thinking? It is an important practice, to help you slow down your habitual pattern of thinking, so that you realize how deception appears to deceive us. And with this way of seeing, the Buddha continued, if you can see the silent nature of science, then you can see the Tathagata. Remember this one. You can see the Tathagata, right? Later part, we will learn something very interesting that relate to this. So if you can see the silent nature of science, then you can see the Tathagata. So the silent nature of science is the realization that science, again, are made possible by non-science elements. It is interesting that to be able to see science, we use our eyes, right? But to be able to see silent nature of science, we transcend our way of seeing. We use something else to see. This part of the sutra teaches us to, overcome our conventional way of seeing everything. We are so used to the way we observe and see things, right? We forget that there's more to meet the eye, right? Seeing in this way also allows us to overcome the notion of a person, a self, a living being, and a lifespan. Now, let me ask you, do you agree that everything is constantly changing, right? If yes, then there's no permanent entity of things. We cannot find a bellness of the bell. We can not find the cupness of a cup, right? So rather than holding on tightly, on something that you cannot hold, you can learn to adapt to new forms of things in every moment. New form of any phenomenon in every moment. And this is the good news. Since everything is always changing, your suffering are always also changing. That gives you opportunity to transform your suffering, right? And you should be happy about it. Because we try to see the way, but the way we see is wrong. We try to see the path of liberation, but the way we see is wrong. How can we see the path? So we try to see the path, but the path we see is distorted. So in order to see, to liberate, we have to be able to overcome our seeing. Remember, if you use your eyes, you see the world, right? But that is where the deception comes. Everybody looks, but not everybody sees. It's so important to look slowly, never rush to judgment whenever you see something that is not in accordance with your expectation or perception. Especially nowadays, social media constantly try to get your attention, your seeing. If they get your seeing, they get money. So they try so hard. And when you are on social media, you are often seen mindlessly. And what is permanent on social media is usually the worst or the best of things, So we have to be selective in our way of seeing. It is believed that our eyes are the door to our mind, right? So be very careful to let through your, whatever you let through your eye door. It will affect your mind. When we open our eyes, we see the world, but when we close our eyes, we see our universe. People find meditation uncomfortable because they're so used to exciting things from the outside world, and they look at their mind. What they find is chaotic and unsettled. That's why the meditation is so challenging, yet very simple, right? Meditation is so easy that you don't have to do anything. You just sit there and breathe. It becomes difficult to meditate because you have never been cleaning and tidying your mind. It is so messy, and the sound of silence is so loud. It's funny that, people often say that they live for themselves, they do everything for themselves, but when they sit by themselves, they cannot do it. They're afraid of themselves. They're not comfortable with themselves. They need external distractions. Some people even go so far to blame other people for not giving them a conducive space to meditate. For example, if you want to have tranquility and calm and quiet environment to meditate, but your family always make noise, your neighbors always create noise, the world always make disturbing noise. But remember, we are a speck of dust in this universe. Our existence is like a grain of sand in this vast galaxy. So you know, we have to employ different ways of seeing when we meditate. Instead of complaining about external conditions, we should appreciate our existence and be humble about it. We should acknowledge that transforming and transcending disturbing inner noise is more important than complaining about external noises. That is how we give birth to a new way of seeing. There's so many opportunities for us to see differently if we can stop and look slowly. Do not let signs or sounds deceive us. That is the main message of this passage. And that is how we can see the Buddha everywhere. When we are not attached to any form, any signs, any sound, we can experience every form, every sign, every sound. When we are free from attachment to one thing, two things, or many things, we will see everything better. Have you seen the Tathagata yet? If not, try to look slowly. All right, that's my lecture for today. And I see some comment in the chat. Let's see. So is it the same concept as discovering the form of roots? I don't know what this question relate to, but maybe when I was talking, you have some insight, and then the question comes up. So you have to remind me where does question come from? David, in this context, what is meant by sign? Can form be substitute for sign and retain the same meaning? However, can meaning also be substitute for sign? Yes, so sign, form, meaning or can be substituted by a single word, which is concept. So concept is employed for certain things, and all the things that we see has concepts, right, attached to it. Whatever you see, if you see something that and you don't have any concept of that thing, maybe you're on a different planet, right? So everything in this planet has a concept attached to it. Is there a difference between perception and first impression? First impression is also perception, I think. So perception is a huge term, right? So whatever you perceive, you have perception, whether it's first, second, or thousandth, right? A first impression, math say first impression is perception, yes, but so is every subsequent impression, yeah. So renunciation can be a form of acceptance. That which does not change cannot be perceived. Renunciation can be a form of acceptance. Can you say more, David?
Yeah, so you were saying that it's possible to just to accept things, right, as they are. And typically, when I think of some Buddhist monks, they would they practice renunciation, right? Not as non-attachment to things. Um, and so typically when I think of the word renunciation, I don't think of it in terms of acceptance, at least conventionally. Um, However, the way that you were describing the non-attachment as acceptance seemed to be very similar to renunciation. So I'm not sure if that helps clarify that question.
So renunciation that you mentioned here is the practice of a monastic life, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's put in that context, then it will be more, it's be easier to understand this. So renunciation can be a form of acceptance. What do we accept here? What, so the practice of renunciation, which is we renounce the world of, attachment. We are still on the path of, trying to reduce and transform our attachment to material things, to, our desire, our hatred, our difficult emotion. So we practice to renounce those um, so-called negative emotions, right? And acceptance here is to like, you don't try to, on the path of renunciation, you don't ignore or get rid of suffering or those emotions. Even, like we say, there's no mud, there's no lotus, right? So it can be a part of, acceptance, but within these renouncing practices, there's so much more. I'm not sure if that's answer the question. Can I see your hands?
So so the question was mine, and it was about the path. So, does the path correlate to how we find the Four Noble Truths? And it connects to David's question as well. So I just thought about it. So
Yes, the path includes Four Noble Truths and so much more, because Four Noble Truths are the fundamental teachings, and it's like a diagnosis, and then when applied to each person, we have different method so the path will be different for different people, right? So we all have similar diagnosis because we all have this human form, you know, we all have this kind of desire, delusion, whether we have more or less, but so we have different remedy for each of our desire and, you know, disease. All right. So,
All right, thanks, Ty.
all right, David.
I just have one question.
Yes.
If a tree falls in the wood and there's no one around to hear it,
Say again.
What?
I didn't get it.
if a tree falls in the wood and no one is around to hear it, does it still make a sound?
David, I just used that on my mom the other day. I was trying to prove a point, and I went like that, and she was like, "What?" I'm like, Mom, it's
that I has to use my I have to use the after my spiritual practice, I see the tree falling as the tree falling, regardless of regardless whether it makes sounds or not. It doesn't affect me. All right, everybody, if you have learned something or want to share something today, please go ahead.
Thầy, I would like to nominate a member in our group to share. Is that all right?
Sure, yeah, if they agree.
So Kevin, you have a wonderful sharing. Would you like to share with our group?
Sure. I'll share a little bit. So in our group, we talked about the way that, like, you know, in our everyday life, we tend to hold on to compliments, right? And they tend to affect us a lot. And for some people, they like compliments a lot. And then if we get like insulted or somebody says something bad about us, that tends to affect us very negatively. And we tend to hold on to that a lot more than like compliments and everything. And we're discussing like why in some cases this is very strong, in some cases this isn't so much. And um, you know, Miss Yuba was bringing up a lot of good points about like the way that we, like, she was bringing up like everything about like impermanence of self and everything, how we see ourselves as like an actual being. And so if somebody says, oh, we do something good, then we think of ourselves, oh, we are good. We fool ourselves into thinking that the way we are in that moment is the same as like how we are for all moments, right? We don't see that we change with time. And so we think of, oh, we are good, so we take that as a good thing. Or we think of ourselves as, oh, we are bad, so we take that as a bad thing. And we see ourselves, this perception, we associate that with like how we really are. Then kind of all I can remember right now, unfortunately.
Thank you, Kevin. That's beautiful. Anyone else?
I mean, I would speak for my group, but I want Margie to speak for us because I think she says it better than me.
So I was actually trying to think in my mind how to relay what we spoke about. When we were talking about how there are signless signs and how everybody perceives things differently, we kind of transitioned that actually into just religion and spirituality as a whole, and how we are very open and accepting to other people and what their thoughts are, what their beliefs are. You know, I had shared personally that I have friends of all different religions and not non-religion, and whatever makes a person happy and brings them peace in their life and helps them get through the struggles of life, I don't care what you believe in. And it's nice to be able to have those open conversations with people, but sometimes her and I have come across situations where people get very defensive about their religion. And I've had a few conversations where people actually kind of started to not attack Buddhism, but just like say things they just don't even know what they're talking about because they don't understand what Buddhism even is. It's just their ideas of what they think it is. And I find it very interesting that these people who are so adamant about their religions and their God or whatever they believe in, but yet they're obviously struggling, because why would you attack somebody else in their own religion and what they believe in and what makes them happy? And that's honestly just one of the things that brought me to Buddhism, and what has helped me in life is just that it's all about really yourself. Like we're talking about transforming our suffering. We're talking about, perceiving things differently, accepting the negative things in life. Whereas, other religions will pray to a God or put their faith in a higher being. And not saying that we don't still kind of do that if that's your preference, but in reality, it's really a focus on ourselves and what we're doing within our. And what I've tried to say to people and explain who don't know, Buddha isn't a God that I'm praying to. Buddha could be potentially a statue in my home or a picture on my wall, or I could just be staring at nothing. Buddha is a person who lived and that I admire and who achieved something in life that we are all seeking to achieve, this enlightenment and this peace. And, it's just, I would never shut other people down for what they believe in or what they're trying to do. And if other people are open to the conversation, I share the things about Buddhism that have helped me and hopefully pass that along to others. So the biggest takeaway we got is just everybody has a different perception of everything in life, whether it's a conversation, an experience, looking at an inanimate and an object. And it's all just based on life experiences. We all have totally different journeys in life. And so everyone's going to have a different perception of almost everything.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Sorry if I rambled a little bit.
Don't worry, I was going to ramble anyway. So better you than me. So
Thank you. That's beautiful. Anybody else?
All right, I can go real quick. Our group, Matt, we're talking about we just want to understand one real quick about psi and silence. But so he's mentioned. I thought he understands psi anyway. But Matt mentioned form and psi, and say I was thinking, yeah, of course, form is a psi, but it's also the sound, the taste, the smell. I think it's also with the psi. Is that correct?
Similar, yeah. So the word here is sign, but you can replace with the words, sound, smell.
Okay, yes, yes. So
Concepts.
so that main idea is like to go beyond the sign means that also mean the silence. Is that correct?
So see the silence nature of sign.
Mm-hmm. So see beyond what we can't perceive, what can see, what can hear. That what is, and we thinking.
Yeah.
Okay. It's something that we thought we'd understand, but
So
yes.
I think the main thing here is to do not get attached to the thing that we see. And don't see it very fast. See slowly to see what is beyond that thing that we see or hear or smell. Yeah.
I have something I want to share with you. I bought a while back, but let's see, you can see it. And let's see. I don't know if you can see it. You can see it?
Is that a sign?
No, it's that of faith. I bought it somewhere. It's a faith. Faith is daring the soul to go beyond what the eye can see.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So it's cool. And I saw somewhere and I bought it back in the day.
That's a good reminder.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Kevin?
Yes, I actually had one question, and it kind of relates to the signs and signless thing. So when you brought up the Zen saying, I was thinking like, we call it the mountain, we perceive it as the mountain, everything, but you know, we should actually recognize that the mountain like lives on its own outside of like how we think of it, what we see, what everything like that. But we also have the notion of like non-being in Buddhism. So is it wrong to think that the mountain is there on its own outside of us? Like it's still there, or is that like the right way of thinking?
So there are three steps, three stages for us in that saying, right? So first, as an ordinary person, we see mountain and we think that it is an independent existing entity, right? There's, you know, and everybody agree that that is a mountain. That's the first stage. A second stage is to see beyond what we perceive. So we see mountain is made possible of non-mountain elements such as tree, rock, and, you know, sand and dirt and stuff like that. So when we see like that, even if someone say something, you know, oh, that we don't see, we see a sign, we see a, we project a concept on a thing that we call mountain, right? And we, during the practice, we break down different part and see non-mountain elements in that mountain, right? So that is during the practice. And then when after you know, you practice, you realize something and you have the wisdom of interdependence, then you see mountain, yes, everybody call mountain. Now I also call mountain. It doesn't have to you know, affect me, or when mountain disappear, or even when someone come and say, oh, that's not mountain, you just smile and, you know, oh, it's okay, whatever you call it. You know, that's the third part. The third stage is a kind of a you're free from attachment to a concept and sign, you know, no more no more suffering, because whatever happened to a mountain, it just is, right? It's not affecting you anymore. So I want to return to the last question from David. So the distinguish between concept and mental formation. So concept is a also a mental construct, you know, that represent an idea or an object, right? So it's a product of collective minds ability to, you know, categorize and label our experiences, right? We have many concepts in our life, we useful concepts, right? And a mental formation is something, you know, referred to a category of mental state, including emotions, volitions, and impulses. Those are also concepts and other mental activities that, you know, condition the mind, right? In Buddhist psychology, mental formation is one of the 5 aggregates or 5 skandhas that constitute human experience. So it's slightly different between them. A concept is more static, but the mental formation is quite dynamic, I would say. Concept is abstract and often related to language and thought, you know. Mental formation, I think it includes volitional and emotional aspects of the mind, right? So those are a few differences between concept and mental formation. But they are also, you know, when we use language, again, you know, concept, mental formation, we also use concept to name concepts, right? So it's they kind of interconnected somehow. All right, Quang Trâm.
Dear Thầy, I have a question to follow up with Calvin questions. So is the psi something similar to linkage?
What's it?
I'm thinking of the 12 links of dependent origination. So it's easier for me to imagine rather than think of the perception is like something in my mind. It's better to think of there is 12 links dependent on one another. So if we think something distinguished by sign is deceptions, then in the 12 links, if we take one of the links is deceptive, then we can easily break it. Is that something that I'm thinking is right?
Okay, so we are going to another different important but difficult part of Buddhism, which is 12 links of interrelated, you know, which is called core arising origination, right? Interdependent core arising, right? So there are 12 links. We'll talk more, but today, just to answer your question, so if that is if that is what is helpful to you, use it. Whatever part of the link that you can if you can relate to, and you know, don't let it deceive you, then it's a good practice for you, right? So for the 12 links, we'll in we will mention you know, the 12 links. Today we don't have time for that, but if that is useful for you, if you think that, you know, go for it. And again, sign and concepts are have the potential to deceive you, right? So be very mindful when you perceive, when you see things. Don't let them deceive you, okay? Look slowly when you perceive things or hear sound, right? So that concludes our class. So I like to invite who's be reading the dedication today.
That would be me. Dedication of merit. May our parents, ancestors, and all beings be happy, healthy, and peaceful. May our departed ancestors who passed away on the way to find freedom be reborn in Buddha's land. May all beings in 6 sense spheres together practice for great sublime abodes and be liberated from suffering. May the great Bodhisattva shine light on our path of liberation. May all beings find common purpose and compassion for their fellows as humans existing on this earth. May we be present and aware of our gifts in the present moment. May the teaching of the Dharma reach all beings to transform suffering into peace and enlightenment. May the fruit of learning this sutra liberate all sentient beings from egotistic self, strengthen their bodhicitta to successfully carry on the bodhisattva pathway. With gratitude, may the wisdom and compassion that I gain from our sessions exploring the Diamond Sutra help lessen the suffering and help increase the happiness of those whose lives I touch. May the merit we make in studying this sutra inspire us to engage the world with the Bodhisattva's wisdom, compassion, and to create a pure land in this world for the sake of all beings. May the merits accrued from the study and practice of the Diamond Sutra class adorn Amitabha's Buddha's pure land, repay the 4 great debts above, and relieve the suffering of those in the 3 paths below.
Thank you, Margie. Thank you, everyone, for being here and learning together. Have a beautiful moment whenever you are. Goodbye.
Thank you very much, Thầy.
Thank you, thầy.
Bye bye. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Have a good day. Have a good night wherever you are.
Have a wonderful time. Thank you.
Yeah, everybody too. Thank you.